Okay, everybody, order in the court. Thanks for being here tonight. It's July 18th, Monday. You're here for the Poolesville Town Commissioners meeting. Thanks to everybody for being here. All the commissioners are present with the exception of Martin Radigan, who's on vacation. Town Attorney Jay Gullo's here. Town Engineer John Strong is here. Of course, Town Manager Wade Yost is here as well. Thanks to everybody for being here. Before we get started, or as we get started, I'd like to have Jeff lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Announcements from the commissioners before we get into committee reports. I know you just sat down. Ed, Carrie, you've been here the longest today. Do you want to be the first one in or not? Want me to wait? Go to Jeff?
I can start.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say congrats again to the fire department for a wonderful July 4th celebration. Congrats to them. And also to our events committee. They had the Wet and Wild, all the water activities for the kids. And there are still a few Fridays on the Commons left, actually. There's 3 more. July 29th, there's the wine down in the park. And then August 5th and August 26th are the last 2 Fridays on the Commons. There's a game night and fiesta in the park. And that's all about events. I also wanted to mention I'll be missing the second meeting in August. I don't know if we usually make plans to take a break during August, but I'll be gone for that one.
Thanks, and we'll probably have to talk about that too, because I may not be here on that one as well. So we'll have a conversation. Everybody's still on board for the first meeting in August. Are we there? That's the 8th, August 8th? August 1st, I'm sorry. I'm already a week ahead. I'm thinking about bikes and breakfast on Sunday is the last Sunday. So August 1st is a Monday. Anybody that knows they're not going to be here for that one?
August 1st, I will be out of town.
Okay.
I can try to zoom in.
So if we get that meeting under our belts and we can accomplish enough, then we don't have to worry about the next one. We can take the second one in August off. So just everybody double check your calendars and see if there's a way to make it in. And if you can do it, we'll check with Martin too.
I'll zoom in.
Okay, very good. I know I'll be here. So if we get that under our belts, then we'll be okay. Sorry, we have to do housekeeping right off the bat, but if everybody could just double check themselves, I'd appreciate it. All right, Carrie, is that it for you for events? Thanks for the announcement. You know, one thing I do want to say, and that ties into events, is the Grand Marshal nomination process ends on July 31st, I think. 25th. That's what I meant to say, 25th. Again, I'm a week ahead of time. So July 25th is when that ends. So if anybody in the vast public that's out there listening to us, as well as members of the audience, if you've got a nomination for the Poolesville Day Grand Marshal, you got to have it in by the 25th. I don't know anything about the status of besides that, but that's something that obviously is very important for us for Poolesville Day. So thanks to everybody that's involved with that. Ed, back to you, buddy, for Sustainable Poolesville, and I'll take care of fair access.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah.
Your announcement.
Jeff can make an announcement.
Yeah, I'm already
I don't
moving
have
ahead.
one.
Go ahead, Jeff. You're
Well,
up.
Link asked me to reemphasize the nominations for Grand Marshal close on July 25th, so please go to poolesvilleday.com and click on the button to make a Grand Marshal nomination. And thank you for that. Also, the Poolesville Seniors is looking for an executive director, so you can go to their website and apply for that position. The job description is also on their website. In addition to that, they're also hiring a communications coordinator, so to do their newsletter and whatnot. So also go to their website to get that information. They're also bringing back bingo. So bingo starts actually, what's today? Today's the 18th. Starts tomorrow. In-person bingo at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock. So that should be popular. And there's also going to be an event on July the 28th. Join Dallas Davidson of Barnesville, Dancing Leaf Farm. July 28th at 7 p.m. for a presentation on how she uses fleece from the sheep to make wearable articles of clothing. Also on August the 4th at 7 o'clock, author Claudia Casales and Ellen Letourneau are going to talk about the history of the Ag Reserve in Montgomery County and the effects of the history on the culinary legacy of the area. So look for that as well. I think, do I have anything else? Oh yes, Montgomery County Farm Tour is back, so they took a hiatus of 2 years, but it's back again starting on July the 23rd and the 24th. So that should be very interesting. It always is. And I think that is it.
Thank you for your parks report.
Yes, please.
Thank you for that. So Ed,
Thank you.
we can go to announcements and you can do Sustainable Poolesville, and there's no way you're going to top Jeff's.
Well, I think
Lineup.
Jeff has covered the announcements. I want to echo what Carrie was saying. Congratulations to the fire department as well as to the events committee for the Wet and Wild that they just had this past Friday. In terms of Sustainable Poolsville, we haven't had a meeting yet, so when we have the next one, I'll be ready to share out.
Great, very good. Anything more from you, Carrie, on events? I know we kind of doubled up there. No announcements? Good to go? And I've got a couple of announcements, but they're definitely going to be something that will tie into the town manager's report. He'll cover a couple bases for us. And then finally, again, back to you, Jeff, Parks, Recreation, Streets. Do you have anything on your side?
I do, so thank you. We had a meeting on the Parks Board of July the 6th, and there were a number of topics that we discussed. A woman from Dickerson, I know I'm going to get the lady's name wrong, Miss Hannah Dona, expressed concerns about the safety of using the rubber recycled mulch in the playground areas of the Tot parks. Ms. Dona has a master's degree in environmental health. She noted rubber mulch contains chemicals that may cause or exacerbate asthma. And she also noted that the fiber chips or wood chips are a safer alternative. And she also noted that Washington, D.C. has banned rubber mulch. I don't know if it's exactly the same one or not, due to lead and mercury contaminants. And additionally, the CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Committee, is conducting a safety study of the rubber mulch. Second is bike racks. So several people have noted that the new arch shape, we don't have one in here now. It's decorative bike racks with the Poolesville logo do not look like bike racks. They are quite attractive for a bike rack, which is a good thing. Parks Board requested that I bring to the commission meeting requests for 5 additional bike racks for the following locations: 2 in Wayland Commons, 1 at Town Hall, kind of out here, 1 at Bodmer Tot Lot, and 1 in Elgin Park. Preston noted that he would like to order 10 additional plain, non-decorative bike racks. So those are just the arch without the centerpiece. And then he would add those to the areas that already have the decorative bike racks to kind of extend the bike parking area. Put those side by side. And Preston noted the cost of each bike rack is about $200 to $250. Speed humps. The speed humps on Wooten near Lilly are marked. There was a resident that asked for that. You can picture where that is, I guess. Over there on Wooten near Lilly. Crosswalks. So we talked about the Wooten and Fisher intersection and the possibility of adding a flashing light crosswalk there. Preston noted that the flashing light is about $20,000 per pair, so both sides of the road. A discussion ensued regarding placing a pair of the flashing crosswalk lights at the intersection of Wooten and Fisher, primarily for the safety of the elementary school children. Preston noted that the flashing crosswalk lights could be installed before the streetscape is implemented. And additionally, Preston pointed out that the flashing crosswalk lights could be easily relocated as needed to accommodate the streetscape. Also, crosswalks at the Poolesville High School, West Willard across from Stony Springs. The crosswalks will be added across West Willard after completing the Poolesville High School construction. There was quite a discussion about having some sort of safety thing on Fisher Avenue across from the Potomac River Supply, just on the opposite side from Locals. And Mr. Strong provided a report detailing the issues that prevent locating a crosswalk across Fisher Avenue from Caliva River Supply over to Locals. And as you may notice, on any given day, there's people walking across there. It's probably the least safe area in the whole planet. The crosswalk from Fisher Avenue from Cleaver Supply is called a mid-block crossing. See, I learned from you, Mr. Strong. Several issues preclude placing a crosswalk right at that spot, one of which is, of course, we don't own the property. It was noted several times that pedestrians should use the existing crosswalk, which is at the nearby intersection of Fisher and Elgin, which is a mere 70 steps away, right? Yeah. So hopefully, hopefully people will take that advice. A trail between Tama 1 and Tama 2 across that's a crosswalk across Dr. Walling over in Tama 1 that connects the Kernan Way over in Tama 2. So a crosswalk is including 2 ramps is already funded for this July 2022. And then Preston also discussed expanding the natural areas of parks. So the idea of expanding the park's natural areas is to allow some areas to return to nature with a bit of help. The benefit includes no mowing and no exhaust from mowing, better water quality, and a micro-pollinator patch. The areas include Elgin Park near the chestnut trees, and the pollinator patches at Wooten Road Park, Collier Circle Park, and Stevens Park. Also, the community garden on Hughes Road between the townhomes and the single-family homes. That's, I guess, on the west side of the road. Reintroduction of natural and native plants at Elgin Park, again at the chestnut trees and Brightwell Crossing Lane. Then another point was discussed, refunds of field rental monies for rain-out days. Kathy Bupp, this is probably 2 months ago or so, provided a report suggesting discontinuing the refunds for field rental fees for rain-out days. A discussion ensued with points for stopping the refunds and points for continuing the refunds. Commissioner Act was to discuss with Town Manager Wade Yost regarding the park regulations and that allow or do not allow for refunds. So we chatted briefly about that. Street names, so the Parks Board also wanted me to look into the policy regarding naming of streets. So anyway, Wade sent me that, I have it, and I sent it back to the Parks folks, so they have it now too. Fish, so another category. Preston noted that he added 100 koi fish to the Collier Circle Pond. Preston will stock the following ponds with over 270 fish, plus 100 purchased by the town in Stevens Park Pond, Collier Circle Pond, and the Tama 1 Pond. Summer camp, firefighter EMT Jeff Eck, that's me, from the Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Department provided CPR and first aid training to the camp counselors on June the 17th. This town summer camp will start soon. Love, Jeff. That's it.
A lot of love there, buddy. A lot of love.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Go for it.
I guess maybe they're more for Wade. I'm just curious about the tire, the rubber mulch. Is that like a latex allergy? What is
It's
that
actually
about?
just a rubber, it's tires that are ground up, basically.
Wow. Have you heard of that before? Like
It's,
kids
we
having
see it in
issues?
the mail every year, you'll have the booths out there, and some people use it, and it's spelled a lot of research, a lot of contentious discussions about it, whether it should be used or not. I mean, over the long term, you do save money as far as the wood chips. Every 2 years, you have to replace them because they degrade so quickly. But so, looking at the manufacturer and EPA, and everybody says it's safe so far, but then all these other groups are coming out now and challenging them. So it's a big issue.
Also know that they're highly flammable, apparently.
They are.
So, and with the bike racks, those are being put in concrete or no?
Some places they are mounted directly and bolted into concrete, but either way, there's going to be some type of base. They're not going to be like sitting out like this one, and this one's going to be repaired also. So
Awesome.
right,
Thank you.
Good questions. Thanks for that. So I'm going to do fair access, and I'm going to be kicking it over to Wade for the Planning Commission, and that's what we'll have for our committee reports. Fair access is gearing up for Poolesville Day and the Poolesville Day breakfast, and I would hope that all the commissioners can make it. It's obviously going to be a big day for all of us. We've been told time and time again by all the politicians, elected officials, different groups that we appeal to on a regular basis through Fair Access that the Poolesville Day kickoff is just a big event. They get a chance to see each other. By then, all of the primaries will be done, and they'll be focusing on the general election. Huge day for us. So Poolesville Day morning, first thing, the Poolesville Day breakfast. If you can make it, commissioners, townspeople, elected officials, staff, you guys are all welcome. We'd love to have you. We're also working on, of course, White's Ferry and Lincoln. I've had a lot of discussions with various parties on this. We still believe that it's a government solution only, and we're pushing our friends at Montgomery County to come up with something that's going to work between and then put the two parties together, which is the two parties aren't going to be together, but to have a government solution to it. So that's what we're working on right now. It's also election season. Everybody knows tomorrow's election day, and a big day for Montgomery County. Really, you know, the primaries are the day for Montgomery County and Maryland. So, and then we've used the opportunity to attend many events. Basically our smoozing people have been out and smoozing in full force, getting what we can out of the local politicians, the people that are running for office, making sure they know where Poolesville is. We'll be doing the same thing tomorrow night on election day, so that will be happening as well. That's it for fair access. Go ahead, Wade, and tell us about the Planning Commission.
Sure, we were light on members on that evening. We only had Kevin Schramm and Lexi Huber, then Martin joined us via Zoom. So we did have a presentation from Elizabeth Carpenter, the chicken ordinance request. Same as that, little discussion took place, not much. They're really going to pick it up next month when they have the full body. We also followed up with our food truck ordinance that we're working on, and Jay's going to be working on he volunteered to work on some special exception portion. Volunteered, yeah.
I talked.
He did.
I said something.
So it's a little bit more pieces to it than what initially started out to be. It wasn't such an easy ordinance to come up with, and a lot of different angles. So we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get it to you soon. Then we also had a presentation from Wallace Montgomery for the vision workshop, and tallied up all the results of all the comments that people made and different stuff. And so we have a direction now. They're going to start drafting some of the chapters. There are a few more interviews they're doing with folks, but they're starting to roll now. We're trying to get past the public participation point of it, so we can get some drafts and then start sharing those. So that was it.
I did some informal polling on the chickens, and I sent that to you by email, so
I will share that.
you should all have that, yes. Thank you.
Is that it on that?
It is.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we know there's going to be a pecking order for, what? Anyway, thank you. Sorry, thanks to everybody for groaning. I appreciate it. That, exactly. I have more, but I'm going to save them I got to use them in each meeting as we go down the line here. So, all right, thank you for the announcements. Thank you for the committee reports from all the commissioners. I do appreciate it. The next up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 21, 2022. Did we have all the commissioners at that meeting? Everybody was there that we remember? Okay, good. So then we need a motion for those minutes.
That's Ed's job.
Oh, okay.
Well, since Martin's not here, I'll take it on. But no, I did read through the minutes, and I motion that we approve the minutes from the last commissioners meeting.
Second by Jeff.
Great. We have a motion from Ed, and we have a second from Jeff. Are there any questions on the minutes from the commissioners? Any corrections, anything to change up? None?
No.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of June 21st, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, thank you, everybody. The minutes have been approved. This is the section of the meeting where we have public comment. If you have something that's on an agenda item, I'll let you speak after we get to the agenda item. So if there's anything in general that the public wants to talk about, anybody in the audience, anybody online, anybody out there in the atmosphere, stratosphere, no? Okay, very good. So as of tonight, we don't have any public comment. That's great. We know that means all of our residents are very, very happy. So we'll take that. Thank you, residents, for your silence. It makes us feel good. All right, very good. So under new business, we have a couple of grant requests, and then we've got some other work to do here. So under new business, we have a grant request from the Poolesville swim team. It's in your agenda. The paperwork for it is. Do you want to get any lead in on this, Wade?
No, we have representatives here from the swim team.
Oh, great.
Come on up, please introduce
All right,
yourself.
guys. Very good. Thank you. If you could, just give us your names and your address, and
Yes,
then
hi, good
we'll
evening.
go from
Jeffrey
there.
McCluskey, 18709 Medley Way,
Thank you.
Poolesville, Maryland.
Everett Lee, 19520 Lewis Orchard Lane in Poolesville.
Great. Thanks, guys. Tell us what's happening.
Great. So if you're aware, we are the Poolesville Piranhas. So if you know that we are sponsored by the Montgomery County Rec Department here, and then our registration fee doesn't cover all of our operational costs. So we've applied for a grant to cover our end-of-year ice cream social and awards banquet, which will be at Stevens Park.
Thank you for that. That's nice. It sounds like a great time. So I'm sure all the commissioners are invited, right?
I don't know how much ice cream do you eat?
All right, right. Yeah, that's an excellent answer. I like that. Very good. Okay, and you guys, we have the grant application in front of us. It's been included in your agenda. Does anybody have any questions for it and regarding the request?
How's the team doing?
1-4 for the season.
So we moved up into a tougher division this season, and so the other teams are just pretty strong. We did our best, though. We won our last home meet.
Yay for the one. Yeah.
In terms of just participation, how has participation been this year compared to last year? I know we had some COVID situations.
Yeah, so I asked her, we have a team coach as well as a team manager. We have 137 registered swimmers. They range from ages of 15 to 18, and we're about 55% female.
Okay, and is that an increase or decrease from last
I think it's a
time?
general range. I
Okay.
think, that on
Is it
average.
around the same?
Yeah, about 140 to 150 is on average.
Okay.
Yeah, so my understanding, I've only been in Poolesville for about 5 years now and been on the swim team. My son, he's a rising freshman in high school now, but he's been on summer swim team ever since we moved here. My understanding is pre-pandemic, we probably had the biggest team that we ever had, and we were
Right.
trending to go up from there, but pandemic obviously changed some things. I think we're now about back to where we were pre-pandemic.
All right, and now, in terms of the morale of the kids, listening that they're 1-4, how's the general morale of the participants?
Sure, I'll handle it differently. Generally, most swim programs, there's a lot of participants at the younger ages. So think about your 6-year-olds, your 8-year-olds, and your 10-year-olds. And generally, by the hit middle school, you have other competing sports. So, baseball drags into the summer a little bit, so we lose some swimmers to baseball, who do all-stars and such, so they can't really compete in two sports during the summer. Morale's always typically great, right? Morale is really set at the top by, the coach and the parents that are involved. Everyone gets to swim, so which is great. We have meets on Saturdays as well as on Wednesdays.
Yeah, there's two types, or I should say, two levels of competency. There's the B meets, and then there's A meets on Saturdays. B meets are on Wednesdays. I'll tell you, my son swims year-round, and so he's a pretty competitive swimmer. He goes to meets year-round, some big meets out of state. He qualified for nationals down in Florida, for example, so he's that kind of swimmer. But I'll tell you, he and our family, summer swimming is the most fun, the best
It
place
is,
to be,
yeah.
especially in Poolesville. Now,
Yeah.
we've lived in Illinois, Indiana, California, and now Maryland, and we've been in swim teams all those different places. Poolesville swimming, especially the summer, is great because of the community, because of the people. Everybody knows each other. And so it's really not even about winning or losing the meet. It's just people, they come together, they cheer each other on, and people have such a great time. It is the most fun thing that we do all year.
Thank you, Ed.
My kids used to do a swim team. They never knew whether we won or lost, so they just had fun. I'm just curious about the infrastructure that you guys have going now. Do you have, it's kind of nice seeing you come here and request a mini grant.
Sure.
And do you guys, do you have a budget? Do you have money in your coffers? Do you have like a board now? I'm just kind of curious if you're looking to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think, all of us bring different experiences. So Everett's lived in different places and been in different teams. I've lived still in Montgomery County, but this is my daughter's third team. So we've all taken little lessons. We're by no means in charge, but remember, it's a parent-led organization. So the county rec department only does so much for the team, and it's really that difference that we have to pick up as parents. We've noticed there's been more involvement this past season, which is great, and that allows us to sort of build and develop for the future years.
We do have a core group that Jeff and myself and several others that have organized this season's team and all the different activities. In that core group, in addition to the coach and the A rep, who is really in charge of representing the swim team amongst the MCSL, the Montgomery County Swim League, there are several individuals, one of which is our treasurer. So we do have a treasurer that keeps a budget and keeps the books, keeps track of all our expenses. We don't have a board. It's been discussed, and we may end up going down that path. But I understand we need to plan things out and do things the right way to set it up the right way. But we are organized, but not quite to the level of a board yet.
Yeah, the MCSL, if you look at the handbook, it recommends a swim committee. Doesn't have to be necessarily a board, but they recommend a committee. I think we're sort of at that evolution of maybe that's the next step for us. Thank you for asking, Carrie.
Joy, I saw you ooh in the back with your hand. Do you have anything to say before we talk a little more to these guys?
Well, I was just going to add on, and Jeff and Everett have just done an incredible job this year, because we really have had to rebuild through COVID. But I will tell you that as a parent of a 9-year-old who became a victim of anxiety and just sort of phobic about things through COVID, swim team brought a new Noah. And I've seen that a lot with the younger kids, and I think one of the most important things about the swim team moving forward is that it is, and I think even Carrie mentioned this, the average kid has no idea where we are on points in an average meet, because it is absolutely not about winning. It's about each kid excelling to their individual best and supporting their fellow member on the team. And when you see a 5 or 6-year-old cheering on an 11 or 12-year-old and vice versa, it does nothing but give you that reality of, as long as you have a nucleus that gives a safe environment for these kids to come together and do something, and thankfully it's outdoors, then we are helping our kids in a way that outside of the school environment, it is absolutely priceless. And it has been so key in these last couple weeks, because there have been social events every single week. There's an event every single Friday night at the pool, and you see the families just coming together in a way that you normally see at Poolesville Day or at Springfest. But here you're getting it, and you're getting with a core group of kids that range in age from 5 to 18, and it's amazing. So I can't say enough about what, or anything that the commissioners can approve to assist that, because there's almost no other event or no other team or group that embraces the gamut of age, boys and girls, whether you go to Poolesville Elementary, Monocacy, John Poole, or the high school, or you're a homeschool child. It embraces everybody, and it is truly what the beauty of Poolesville really is. And if you haven't come out to a meet, I beg you to catch one of our events before the season's over.
This Saturday, 9 o'clock in the
This
morning.
Saturday, Yep.
Yeah. In fact, that's our divisional championships. All
Is it
6
in
teams.
Poolesville?
It's hosted at our
Great.
pool this year. All
Thank
6
you.
teams in the division are going to be there. And yours truly will be the announcer.
Right. Great. We get to hear your melodic tones. Mr. Clifford, go ahead, sir.
I know a little bit about this over the years. I was a coach in the A-League back in 1970. But I support everything you said. Much like scouting, it's everything of the association with the little kids and the older kids and the rah-rah that goes on. It's just a phenomenal thing. But I just want to suggest to you that traditionally snack bars are run by swim teams and managed by swim teams, and that's their funding mechanism. I don't know if that happens with you guys.
Yeah, we
do.
have a concession stand.
But usually that's a pretty good funding.
Remember, it depends upon weather. So we've had some rain on Wednesday evenings when we have our best sales.
What I'm suggesting is it goes week long. It's
But
not just
you're referring to the one that's actually at the pool, that's there whenever the
Yes.
pool is open.
Right.
Yeah, there are separate permits for the availability to do that, and it's a much bigger commitment than at the
Oh,
moment.
it's a big
Yeah,
thing.
it's huge.
Yeah, we're able to do concessions during our meet events. We're contingent upon weather, so that is another source of where we're able to raise funds
Yeah.
for the team as well.
And I know the pool hours have changed,
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
so you ready to go pool?
Yeah, I'm fine. Let's say, first of all, before we even vote, thanks a lot for doing what you do.
Appreciate it.
I run a big sports organization, and I know it's time-consuming, and if you have any basketball players amongst the swimmers that you want to
We
give a
can trade.
basketball to afterwards, the ones with the
We should
long
probably
arms.
talk to you too as well.
Yeah, we can cross-pollinate on that. Thank you.
My swim pool pass already, yeah.
Nice.
All right,
And
well,
to the earlier question, you guys are all
yeah.
invited, okay, to come to this ice cream social and award ceremony.
Thank you for that.
I'd love to have you.
Yeah, we
Next Thursday
appreciate
night
it.
at 6.
I
Great.
do have one question for you.
Yeah.
Do the rules prevent you all from having outside sponsors or different businesses that would want to sponsor you all?
No, for this year we haven't, no. We will have to accept sponsorships, that's correct.
Okay, that's the question. You can accept sponsorship?
correct, yes.
I'm thinking for next season. I'll just.
Yeah, so, you know, this, our conversation this evening was specifically about how to fund the event. So remember, at the end of the year, we have what is our awards banquet, right? So each sports program typically has an awards banquet. Ours happens to be an ice cream social with trophies, right? That's something that's not provided by the county. It's not paid for by any participants, and so we usually fundraise funds to provide for that.
Yep, and I understand, because I've coached
Yeah,
for a
I
number
hear
of years basketball here in Poolesville, and my kids, when they were younger, they did swim team for a few years.
Yep.
So
Appreciate it.
I
Thanks,
understand
Ed.
where you're coming from.
So, you know, the gist of this is, and I said I don't want to extend this any further, we have a lot on our agenda tonight, but the gist of this is that when people come in for grant applications, usually we know a lot more about their structure
Sure.
and their financial structure. So that's why you're getting quizzed a little bit. We haven't gotten this grant request before. We really, you know, everybody knows about the piranhas and, you know, contribution to the community, how well the swim team works, and it's such a great thing for the kids. There's no question about it. You can hear the cheers from my house, you know, down on Fisher Avenue. We know it's great. So that's why you were just kind of getting, it wasn't the third degree, we call it like the first degree tonight, to hear a little bit more about how you guys run. So I'm prepared to have a motion from anybody on this. Motion from Jeff, second.
Boy, I didn't say
Yeah.
what I was going to say yet.
No motion? Okay.
I'm
I'm rolling.
Make a motion,
I'm
we
gonna roll now.
approve the grant request.
Okay, great, thank you. Second.
Second.
Second from Carrie, and before we go to the next step, wait, so I take it the grant request meets all the requirements, technically, the paperwork, everything's in order?
Yes, everything's directly in order. It's a community benefit, and there's plenty of funding in account 570.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion for the grant, to award the grant request. We have a second. Wade's outlined about that we have the money and we know where it's coming from. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I'm just curious, that's a mini grant
That's
line
correct.
item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commissioners? This is the hardest fought $1,000 ever. Hardest learned, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of approving the grant request, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? No? Grant request has been approved 4-0. Congratulations. Everybody put it on their calendar for next Thursday, a week from this Thursday, right?
Stevens Park.
Stevens Park,
At Stevens Park. Great.
yeah, 6 o'clock.
Okay, but ice cream limited for the commissioners. I got it. Leave it for the kids. It's all good.
We are
And-
the piranhas, so as long as you have teeth, you can partake.
All right, that's a good start.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
everyone.
that.
Thank you for your support
Thanks,
as well.
guys. Nice
Appreciate
seeing
it.
you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
you coming
much.
up.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate this. Thank
Yep, very good. All right, keeping the seat warm is the Poolesville Area Chamber of Commerce grant request. I promise you will not get quizzed as heavily. No, I'm watching the clock tonight, my friend, so.
The record, I'm Tom Kettler, President of the Poolesville Area Chamber of Commerce. Joining me is the senior branch manager of our one and only bank in town, M&T Bank, Cheryl Kenley, who recently joined our board of directors, so she is going to be taking the lead on our welcome bag project. I know you've got the application in front of you. By way of background, the town has been passing out welcome bags for a number of years, probably as long as I can remember, and I think in the last 6 or 7 months, there's been discussion about maybe giving that little project over to the Chamber of Commerce, which makes sense. A lot of towns, I think, do that. Welcome bag is basically, and my lovely assistant here has a sample. So we went through a couple different varieties, but this is the bag we're talking about. It has an imprint area on this side that I think you all got a copy of the logo that we're looking at. It's a combination of logo of the chamber and the town logo. So anyway, the town was passing out bags. I think Kathy Bupp was the one that physically went around and gave them out. And they contained the chamber directory, information about local businesses, menus from local restaurants, that kind of stuff. So chamber board discussed it, and we're happy to take the project on. Although we are here tonight, of course, requesting some funding to help pay for the bags themselves. And we're looking at a couple year. I'm thinking this is probably a 2 year, maybe 3 or 4 year supply of bags. The request is for 200 bags. The bag cost is $5 a piece. We're sourcing them locally through a chamber member, Banana Tree, that I'm sure you all are familiar with. We like to shop local whenever we can. So, and we realize we might be able to get them a little bit cheaper somewhere else, but it's important to us to support our local businesses. So So we've talked to Derek, and he called me today and said, when can I place the order? I said, we're not quite ready yet. I'm coming to commissioners tonight, so we'd be happy to answer any questions about it. I mean, we see, and obviously the purpose of the logo, we'll have the chamber logo on it and the town of Poolesville logo, because we see this really as a joint effort, between the town and the chamber, and we know you all are supportive of our local businesses, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Your hand raising, even though I don't look at you.
Well, I have a question for Mr. Town Attorney Jekyll. So
Oh, that's right.
I'm the treasurer of the Chamber of Commerce, so I'm assuming I should not vote.
Yes, just, you stated that on the record now, so when they abstain, you should not vote nor participate in the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is a discussion amongst the chamber board, and Mr. Brown is also a member of our board, so we're really looking to you two, it looks like, tonight. And if Martin wants to dial in, so. But we're happy to answer any questions that Carrie and Ed had.
Being a member is not a problem. It's
Being on the
fact-
board is the
is decision making.
Right.
Both of us.
That's the two of you,
Without
yeah.
Martin being here, are we going to have enough to approve the grant approval in terms of, we have a majority of the eligible members?
Really ask me to do math now, so.
I am.
Okay, that's right. So a quorum is 3, so you have a quorum to conduct business, and so you can vote with a majority of those present and voting. So 2 people have to be in favor of it.
Understood. Thank you. And we passed, we saw the planning commission act on that last week as well. That's summer government for you right there. Okay, very good. So do anybody else have any questions for this? I know that, again, it's going to come from the mini grant budget, same funding. We have the money. Anything else? Carrie, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second your motion.
Oh, that was pretty painless.
All right, let's vote.
Great. All right, we have a I can still run it, Ed. We have a motion and we have a second to approve the grant request. All those in favor of approving the grant request, please say aye.
Aye.
All those will be abstaining, please say aye. Aye. Okay, very good. That's all we need. That motion is approved in the rare 2-0 vote.
Yes, really, right, very good,
For
yeah.
the
We
Poolesville Town
appreciate-
Commissioners.
Appreciate the support, and we'll get
Yeah.
the bags ordered, and we
Right.
hope to be, get it started and getting back out.
You've done too good a job of recruiting members is the problem. So, board members. All right, thank you both, and thank you again for staying in town and keeping M&T here. We appreciate it. Thank you. I know, well, we know that's a major influence on the whole thing, so you gotta keep it chugging. All right, very good for that. All right, Wade, want to give us an introduction on the Microgrid Feasibility Report?
Sure, we have a representative here, Khalid, who has been working with the report. This feasibility study was actually started in 2021 during my absence, and he's been working on the study, and just, you take it from here, Khalid.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Wade. Thanks, Lynn, for being here.
There you go.
You're good.
Greetings, commissioners, staff, attendees. As Wade indicated, we've been working on this feasibility report, I believe, for about a year now. And I'm just here to update you guys on our progress and kind of give you a heads up on what remains to complete that cycle of the Resilient Maryland Grant. I hope you have a copy of the presentation in front of you. I'm just going to go through it a little bit, and then we'll go through some Q&A, and I can answer any questions in terms of where we are. Everybody's good?
Yes.
Well, I can tell you we were very excited to see this move forward. And as you guys are aware, the town is really positioned to take advantage of renewable opportunities, given its location in the county. And so when the grant was accepted in 2021, there was some challenges we had with the leadership transition, but we were able to get things on track. Back in March, we identified a site, I believe you guys call it the Hoeing Park location. And the reason why we selected that is primarily because it's got the interconnection on site. As well, and on that particular circuit, there's enough capacity to support a 1 megawatt, actually a 1.5 megawatt system. So that made it very easily to consider for this project. Also, if you look at the generation, we're considering using technology that is really advanced, wherein we only need less than 2 acres to support a 1 megawatt project. So it makes it very attractive in terms of its footprint and what it can generate in kilowatt hours. Also, another benefit that we can take advantage of is the utility has agreed to waive certain fees in terms of the application as well as the interconnection. And that's very good for the town in terms of, not having to come out of pocket to cover those costs. John been very gracious in his time in working with the utility to make that happen. Moving on, if you mind going back.
Sure.
So what we're here today to do is just discuss the next step and to get you guys to support us moving forward with the project. We've used approximately 50% of the grant, the $24,000 grant, so we have a remaining amount to use to develop the project and do some site planning, which I understand is the next phase for the town for us to really dig in and create the value for the planning commission to consider. And then once that's determined, then we can move forward with an interconnection study, which is getting the utility involved and making sure that we have all the technical requirements to supply the grid. Any questions so far?
I have some, but when we get down the line. So,
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it so far.
Awesome. I believe you all would have received the feasibility report. It's not complete. It's pretty comprehensive. I'm not sure if you had a chance to review all of that, but this is kind of a summary of that and where we are.
Are you going to go through more pages?
Go through more pages.
Yeah, on the TV screen?
We only have 2 more slides. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
yeah.
wait then, thank you.
Okay, great. What we're proposing is an ownership model that the town would own the system completely outright. We understand you all have an existing system that's been in play for quite a while now, and that's been working out. This particular system, what we envision is it would offset roughly 25% of the town's remaining bill. Right now, the existing system is covering about 80%, primarily the wastewater treatment facility. I believe there's 5 or 6 accounts that are being offset. And then, of course, we have the streetlight account and some other ancillary accounts that could also benefit from offsets. With that amount of capacity, we would have 75% remaining for the town to take advantage of residents or small businesses within the town to take advantage of. And so, that was an additional benefit to the community through what's called a community solar offering. You guys may be familiar with that process. And then, of course, there's the money that we would need to move things forward. Considering you already got some subsidies that we could apply in the MSET grant, as well as there's a tax equity financing piece, which you don't have to pay back. And, of course, the Green Bank would be open to participating on a debt side of financing. And also, in my conversations with the MEA, there's another grant, I'm not sure if you guys, another loan or financing instrument called the Lawton Loan. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay, so the Lawton Loan is a 0% grant, or in terms of interest rate, for municipalities, whereas the Green Bank, there's about 2 or 3% that you guys would have to pay on the principal. And then, of course, the Lawton Loan, the max is $500,000. Okay, 0% interest on the Lawton Loan, capped at $500,000. The 220 potential LMI grant, that is a competitive grant that's offered through the state. However, it comes with conditions in terms of subscribing a certain percent of low to moderate income households. Not sure if the town would be interested in that. That grant is available in the next few weeks. They will reopen that back up again. So that's something to consider as well when we talk about value stacking or capital stacking. Next. And then we've got some of the benefits and incentives to move forward with the project. Should we get the green light from the Planning Commission and everybody's in agreement that it's going to, add substantially to the economics of the town. Primarily, we're looking at $164,000 cash flow every year. That's considering the subscriber network as well as the SRECs that are available in Maryland in this region. You get the, you can support the households, the businesses, offsetting those bills. Of course, there's additional federal subsidies that are out there that we could pursue through the USDA to also offset the cost of the project. And then, of course, the streetlights. We're in I think we're 65% complete with that project. Once it's done, there's an estimate savings about $40,000 a year that could be applied towards debt payments. So that's something to consider. And of course, the town would be, they're already designated as a sustainable jurisdiction, but this project would really separate it from everyone else and be a lead innovator in terms of resiliency and energy savings in this region, in this county, actually. And of course, supporting the county's climate action goals of reaching 80% carbon neutrality by 2027 and 100% by 2035. So that's kind of the brief summary of where we are. And so let's talk about what do we need, what the next steps are and how you guys can support us moving forward. Keep in mind that the Resilient Maryland grant is still open. We have a budget of $12,000 remaining to complete the site plan and then go into the, as they say, interconnection study. But before we can get into that, we need to present something to the Planning Commission, is my understanding. And so I'm here today to ask you guys just to support us moving forward with the next step.
These guys, so just to clarify, these guys are your next step. The planning commission will not be involved with this unless we do approve to implement a site plan.
Okay, so with that, so they can make a decision to move forward with the grant, to do the site planning, and then we will circle back with them to approve moving forward with the planning commission?
So what commitment are you looking for today? Because they already have a commitment to fulfill the other 12,000 and finish the study.
Correct, yes.
So that's already in place. So what are you asking for beyond that?
Well, to really strongly consider the Hoeing Park location. I understand there's a limited amount of sites there. It's already permitted for the 3/4 land use. Should the results of the site planning come back, I mean, how do you all feel about that site being a host for a project like this?
Is there a backup site?
We did submit a backup site. It would be, but we haven't gotten back the feedback in terms of the capacity available on the circuit yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did look at a number of sites for the possibility of doing something like this, and it is fairly limited as far as
Yeah.
town-owned properties.
Yeah. And is the 12,000 enough? I mean, you said that you've already used up about 50% of the funds.
Right, so this concept can be used at another location, right? With your permission, I guess we're already approved to move forward. Once we exhaust those funds, if the commission decides, you know what, we really want to put this project on another location, we would have to start that process over again with the site plan.
I see, okay.
Wait, has the Parks Board had any role in this so far? I mean, it's their park. Are we not using it for park activities?
No, I think the understanding that when we first kind of started this whole process was that this was going to be a study to see if it could go somewhere. There wasn't a particular site or a commitment to have a site chosen at any time until now.
How much are we using Hoeing Park these days?
Every season it's used for soccer, fall and spring.
Okay, gotcha.
Can I say something? Actually, I don't know what to say. I'm feeling very unclear about this for a couple reasons. When you had the numbers on the previous page, the Poolesville ownership model page, yeah, so, because I read through this, it's 30 pages. I made a lot of notes and highlighted a lot of numbers, and those aren't in here. That's, I mean, I don't have my glasses on, but I can see it's not the same. And when I took on page 9, the savings of approximately $36,350 and divided it by 1.550 million, it was a 42.6-year payback. So that's why I'm unclear about this, Wade, very unclear.
I believe you're referring to the streetlight savings analysis.
Well, this is what I was given, and I read through it.
Right, so the way the project started off is we were trying to subsidize, figure out a way to pay for the streetlights to get upgraded. There was some challenges with the utility, there was some budgeting issues, and so the Resilient Maryland grant was a way for us to determine what options we had towards developing or upgrading the streetlights. So when we applied, that was the lead. That's what the focal point was. How do we upgrade these streetlights to something that's more modern, LED based? And so when we got into it, it was determined that we really didn't need to meet certain criteria that the utility was requiring us to do. And so we went through a few options in terms of, instead of replacing each individual pole, looking at what's called a nanogrid system, which would look at each individual circuit. We eliminated that once the utilities determined that we didn't, the restrictions that were once, there had been removed, that a community solar or a net metering option was the next best option. So the street lighting pro forma is really to show the savings from, what that upgrade would look like. And of course, it's part of the grant because we talked about it in the beginning and it was the impetus for the project. We wanted to reflect that, what that looked like in relation to savings to support a community solar project.
Wade, how deep is Poolesville into this plan?
Well, so the grant was for $24,000, and we had to give $6,000 of John's time or in-kind payment into the project. So I'm not sure exactly where we are with funding that. I don't know if you know, John.
Couple thousand at the most.
But sort of really into it. I mean, it's a study granted by the state, and that's basically.
Just another question, because just to show my ignorance, wouldn't Clark and Azar wouldn't Mr. Strong be the person who would take us forward with LED lighting?
Parts of it, and we do it with staff too, as far as the lights go. So the idea was to offset the cost of the electricity for those street lights, the 600 and almost 700 lights that we have.
So may
Yeah.
I interject here a little bit, give you a little bit of help?
Please, I'll take all the help I can possibly get. You can come and sit here if you like.
Just so I'm on the speaker. All right, so when we first started looking at it, the study assumed that we were going to have to redo the wiring, the poles and everything else. I spoke with Potomac First Energy, and we went around the bush a couple of times, and it was determined that no, we don't have to change anything except for the light bulb, which changes the scope considerably. So that's how we got to this point now. And then there was also a discussion originally of developing a nanogrid system, which was determined that it wasn't necessary based upon what we have in place, because the town pays a flat rate for each LED light that they
Yeah, unmetered rate. Yeah.
it's an unmetered rate. So, in fact, Poolesville was the first town to have that, thanks to Mr. Yost over there. And they negotiated that out several years ago. So that fell away. So now the scope is kind of changing around on what the study should be.
The scope of the nanogrid.
Of this study.
Of this study,
Oh.
of this study. So that's where I'm at.
You're not any more clear, are you?
I'm glad to hear that, I absolutely do remember the discussions that took place some time back about the LED lights, and at first it was gonna be kind of a big deal to change out the poles and the wires and the heads and whatnot, and now that seems a lot simpler. So I'm happy to hear that, and I assume that that's moving forward.
Correct.
Good, cool, okay. So, yeah, okay, so that's aside.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually aside and
again,
separate
I
from.
apologize to everybody in this room for my ignorance, right? I need
No,
to-
this is
I-
not easy to follow.
I want to understand, so we're considering a nanogrid, which is a solar array, to power something. What is it going to power?
Okay, great question, because, we're talking about offsetting the street light cost, so it's gonna do the street lights, which was the minimal cost that we just talked about, you just talked about. So what else does it? So virtually, you're talking some other meters, but we have a 1.1 megawatt right now that is 80% of our electricity, so that's why I'm confused, what we need a 1.1 megawatt now, just to finish up the other 20%.
Well, okay, so the scope has changed, right? We went from upgrading street lights to doing a microgrid project, right? Microgrid meaning, there's an optional element to sustain certain loads over certain periods of time, okay? The purpose of the grant was you have to incorporate some sustainability or some resiliency of microgrid, whether it be a generator, whether it be batteries. So by nature of that grant, we have to incorporate that scope of work, okay? Now, it adds an additional cost to your typical community solar project, and it would be the town's decision to say whether or not they would want to, include that optional part of a microgrid. But if you exclude the optional microgrid portions of it, you're just dealing with a community solar project, which is generally a virtual net meter operation. And so the 1 megawatt is enough, well, the 2.25 acres is enough to support a 1 megawatt system for the town in terms of generating additional revenue. So it would be an economic benefit to the town to install a 1 megawatt system, not only to offset its remaining load from the streetlights and some other accounts, but also provide some support to the community, whether it's residents or small businesses, to offset their load to assist in generating this $164,000 revenue stream that the town would benefit from.
Okay, so, if you could just hang out there. So, Wade, so what, I'm sorry, what was your name?
It's
sir?
Khalid.
Khalid. So the gentleman is saying that the idea is, or I have to get this in my mind. So Poolesville has this big generator, right, or not a generator, an electric meter, right, and it spins around as we use up power. Now, we either put in a generator there, like a diesel generator, or we put in a solar array, connect it to our meter, and the meter runs backwards, right? Somewhat, or slower.
Gotcha, yes.
Slower forward or backwards, which means we save money. Is that what this is about?
Partially, yes.
Well, what's the other part?
So then he's saying, so I'm not sure, my ignorance is, I don't know how the community solar program works and how we would get revenue. So we become a generating station, basically. I've been.
Correct. So there's no, essentially, if you eliminate the microgrid aspect or scope of the work, it would include any generators or any battery. It would be a system just like the one that's currently existing next to the wastewater treatment facility that's offsetting the majority of the town's bills. But this one would have capacity to completely offset or the remaining amount of the town's loads from a virtual net meter standpoint. So it would feed into the grid, but to your point, it would reverse the billing or the kilowatt hours on a monthly basis. And then the remaining capacity, the town would be essentially a generator of power from a virtual standpoint to offset subscribers within the local community.
Well, I mean, I'm all in favor of having a solar array to get our meter to run backwards. If only this said that.
It says a lot more than that. Because there's other parts past that, as he just discussed. So, yeah, you're, well, we're talking about a 1.1 megawatt to go on that 2.5 or 2.25 acre site is gonna generate 80% more electricity than we need to offset the rest of our meters. So you have to sell that to make money on it. That power.
Okay.
Am I
Clearly,
right?
we
Is
need
that what
someone
you're-
smarter than me to figure this out, yes.
Joyce, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add, and please correct me if I'm wrong, one, I think you need to plan, if you talk to people who plan ahead in energy needs in the future, they're gonna say that that with everything going electric, you're gonna need more and more energy. So, in other words, when all of the vehicles in the town, all the town government vehicles are electric, they're gonna need energy, you're gonna need energy for that. So that's one reason to do something like this, because it might be covering, 80%, the current array might be covering 80%, you only have 20% difference right now. But when you start adding electric vehicles, that could grow, that 20% is gonna grow, okay, because that's one thing. The other thing is, I think, Khalid is, talking about, okay, you have more. So what he's doing is providing, what that array would actually be doing is providing an additional income stream to the town government through selling electricity to town residents or town businesses. Now, that's basically what the community solar array would be doing if the town owns it and decides to do that with it.
How does that manage that?
Huh?
How does that get managed?
There's,
You would have a subscriber organization who would work with PPAs or agreements with individual households, over predetermined periods of time.
Okay.
So if that's not, so does that, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, Wade, is this something that we got to get to the bottom line here somewhere, right?
I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom line tonight. There's a lot
Oh, we're
more
not?
information that needs to come in. For you to make a commitment on whether you would turn parkland into a solar array, you might want some community input. It's a rural rustic road in that area. You might want the neighbors to know you're thinking about putting a big system in there.
Well, I know that's a soccer field right next to the well.
So that's the area, yes.
Yeah, and I know, I've seen many times soccer being played in that field, so, and maybe there's a better spot, or whatever, I'm not quite sure. I'm just, as you can probably tell, I'm just baffled about
No, there's a lot of moving parts to this.
this report, and, yeah, especially because the numbers are just completely different now on that page versus page 15.
Yeah, they did change. Khalid gave me a call last week, and there was another
Oh.
grant that was listed on, in the study report itself that did fall through.
And what is the town committed at this moment to do?
Pay our portion of the feasibility study to get it complete.
Is that in here? I didn't see that.
No, that was something that was agreed to in '21.
It's what?
That was something that was agreed to in 2020.
So Jeff, we've already obligated $24,000, budgeted $24,000 to this, and maybe I'm going to rephrase your question, is that in order, I would assume that you're looking for some sort of move forward with this because you feel like the last remaining funds for the study and the work that needs to go into the study potentially had to be dedicated to a certain location. So you're asking potentially for the town to commit to using Hoeing Park tonight, which I don't think we're prepared to do, but to use Hoeing Park in order to, or a park like it, to continue your study and to provide us a complete study. Am I missing that, or is that where we
So
are?
we have to complete the study, and right now, the park has been identified as that location. If
In order to base the completion of the study on.
No, we don't have to use that site, but we've done enough work and research to know that it is suitable in terms of the capacity available on the circuit, the interconnection point. Now, if there's another viable site in the town, we can certainly look at that. But we are on the clock in terms of meeting the deadline for the grant. So we would want to pick something, get through the site planning, exhaust the funds, and in the process create, more value to present to you guys to make it a decision and saying, hey, this makes sense. I understand it more. It's feasible from a technical standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and then you could make a determination there on how you would like to proceed. But there's no commitment beyond, we're not asking for a commitment beyond the feasibility study.
Right, and I was under that impression as well. So thank you for clarifying. Just wanted to make sure that that's where we were. So Jeff, you see there's more to come on this, and I appreciate the presentation on it and the work that's already been completed. You've given us a lot of information here that we need to kind of absorb. And again, we're not fast absorbers, but we are absorbers. So we're going to figure this out and see what it means to us. I open it to the other commissioners if you have questions or direction on this. My intended direction probably is to go ahead and request that this feasibility study be completed, and then we probably get more of a summary that gives us a direction based on the final of the feasibility study. I understand the clock's ticking, and which one of the grants is it that it's ticking for?
That would be the Resilient Maryland Program grant. And keep in mind, you have the subsidy from the MSEC grant that's available to you all as well. And that's can be used over another 4 years. So, it's not a sense of urgency in terms of dispersing those funds, but we would have to justify it if we use it. And so this particular project we could use to offset that cost.
I think all the commissioners realize that the scope of this has changed from when it was initially, and I don't have a problem with that. Normally, if the scope of something changes and we've obligated the money towards it, but it's not what we obligated the money towards, that's a bit of a different story there. But I think you've gotten enough from the commissioners as well as our town engineer, town staff, that I think we'd like to see the rest of it. And then, I hate to ask for it to be dumbed down, but I'm gonna want more information before we figure out. I know there's a lot of money on the line too. We're talking about some big money grants. We're talking about the creation of this grid, not just the use for the park, but as Joyce said too, trying to obligate ourselves in terms of energy production in the future. It's a big deal. So I think I don't know if we don't have a vote in order for you tonight to say to proceed, but I think you've brought us up to speed. We still have a lot more talking to do about it. We've got a lot more clarity, I think, to get from our guys as we get along. What else can we give for you tonight?
Yeah, this is primarily an update for you guys. If you hadn't been keeping up with all the activities, I think we got about 3 or 4 different grants in play right now. So not to confuse it with everything else that's going on. The good thing is that we have found a solution with the streetlights, and so that helps in terms of offsetting the future expense if you guys do determine to move forward. You can reallocate or determine how you want to apply those funds. And, we really want to complete the study and really take it to the level of site planning. The numbers, will change, but maybe not, dramatically. And then there's still, the utility has to have their input as well.
I know we're excited about always taking the next best step in terms of green and energy production. We were one of the first ones that created our own solar array, first towns in Maryland and across the country that created a solar array. So I know we're open to the further discussion on it. And I think what's going to come down to is, the basics for these guys. We love the idea of going as green as we can, but how's the money going to work? What's going to be the gain, not just in the now, but in the future? I know you've given us some of that already. I want to see how those grants are going to pay for this, and what really is going to come out of the town's pocket. I think we've got to work on all those.
Absolutely, I agree.
So.
Yeah. What do you guys see as your biggest? What's your field in terms of your number one priority with an operation like this? Is it economics? Is it land use? What's the challenge, or how can we overcome your concerns about the project?
I'll let my guys speak. Go ahead.
I think what we have to do, because you're going to have competing interests, and so you really got to take a complete comprehensive look, because you can't say, this piece here versus this piece. I think you have to have feedback from your community. What are the different impacts? So if you're looking at land, so if you're saying, take this piece, this parcel here, who's impacted by taking that parcel? If you look at planning strategically for the future, then that's a strong interest, just as Joyce, reiterating what Joyce had just mentioned a few minutes ago. So I think you can't just say there's one. I think you have to look at different pieces and then bring that whole picture. So if we're talking about a big picture, you got to look at all the different puzzle pieces that make the big picture what it is.
I agree.
So
Now-
that's where I stand.
I was just going to say, I certainly support completing the feasibility study. And I appreciate updates like this. And I guess I would maybe echo what Jim was saying, kind of dumbing them down for us. I appreciate Jeff asking the questions. I'm actually with you. I couldn't explain it to someone to save my life, but I'm with you only because I asked all these questions when I was reading this over the weekend of the environmental engineer that I happen to live with. So that's the only way that I am with you. So I think, dumbing it down a little bit for us who don't do this work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the clouds sometimes.
Yeah.
But, we really appreciate you guys' feedback. Question, at what point do you want to get the public involved? Because we've got this step of getting the site plan developed, and then, I think Wade agrees that we should move forward with that before, and then present that to the Planning Commission. Once they make a determination, at what point is the next step getting some sort of public hearing or getting feedback from the community? When would you like to see that part of the study done?
Is that actually a part of the study?
It's not,
I know, that's
but,
what I thought, so.
yeah, but it's an item of interest for the town and,
What is the deadline for the grant?
well, they're giving us a 6-month extension. So we're looking at possibly December at wrapping things up. It really just depends on, as we get to this next milestone and make another determination, how to proceed.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I think this should be discontinued. Does the town of Poolesville owe any more money? If the study is finished,
Once we complete the
anybody
study,
have
that's an end right there, as soon as we do the study, if that's what you're asking.
what?
Completing the study would be an end. Either you commit, move forward, or you stop. Is that what you're asking?
Do we owe more money to complete the study?
We're going to finish up a site plan and stuff. That's where John, actually, his work comes in. So we pay an in-kind fee. We pay for John's time. That was a part of the agreement for the grant.
Okay, if we already agreed to that,
So
then
we already
fine.
have, yes.
I just kind of see this, well, I don't see this going very far. Sorry, just being honest.
Well, we can count on you for that, Jeff. I can't say I feel the same way, but so what I'd like to see us do is continue our commitment to work through the grant money. Have you come up with your final feasibility, whatever the feasibility study leads us to, may not be final, but to what you feel like is the end goal on it. I definitely think if you need to think about proceeding further and using Hoeing Park as the model for it or the positioning for it, I don't have a problem with that. Know for a fact that we would have to go through our Parks Board and have them do something on it. We might be able to do that concurrently, and we can talk to our staff offline about that. But I don't see us stopping right now. We definitely have money invested, and there's potential for some real payoff here. I think if we, we get some further clarity on it. So I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but that's where I am.
Yeah, I would say let's go ahead and what we've already obligated ourselves to do, we should finish that out. I think we have to pay close attention to those, since there are multiple grants, look at the deadlines for each grant to make sure that we are in compliance of what we've agreed to do. And then we're talking about a feasibility study, so let's get the study done. But as you're doing that study, before you maybe finalize that, you might have a few more updates, talk to the different committees that you need to talk to, since you're coming up with this draft of the study. So it sounds to me, if you put it in layman's terms, and you look at, you had to pivot because of the streetlights, and yet you have to say, okay, what are some other sources of energy? So now you have the idea of the microgrid. Am I right so far? You made a
Correct,
pivot,
yes.
now it's microgrid, and then the question becomes, where do you put the microgrid? And so now you're trying to figure that out. Now you found a possible site, which is at the Hoeing Park. And now the question is, are there any other sites, or if Hoeing Park is the only site, now what has to happen to make that deal work? And then you're trying to make sure you're staying within those timelines to wrap up the study. And then you're looking at, if you're moving forward with Hoeing Park, that would be the next level after the study, to actually build a grid. Am I right so far?
Yeah, I mean, and we're heading in that direction.
Right,
along
and
those
so I'm
same
trying to
lines.
just put it in layman's terms for everybody else to take all this complex stuff, bring it down, simplify it. So I think the point that we're at right now, what would be helpful for me, and I don't know, maybe my colleagues, if we said, okay, these are the grants, these are the deadlines, these are the things that need to happen to complete the study, this is for this is for our information, and then the public can know, hey, this is what's going on, this is where we are in completing the study. But I think you should have a hard deadline for those studies to be completed so that it's within those timelines determined by the grant. I think that's where we are right now, and then whatever Wade and John, whatever else you see or whatever I'm missing, then bringing back, I think consulting with Sustainable Poolesville with that committee might be a good thing to do as well. So.
The only thing I would add to that, and I'm going to get to Carrie because I know she's been working on this. I would say that just to add to what you've said, Ed, the feasibility study needs to include those grant dates, the time they expired, the proposed timeline for doing what would need to be done in terms of meeting those grant dates, and then also too, the definite cost benefit to the town now and in the future in really kind of a simplified summary form. And that's what I would need to know before I would go further with it. So I'm just adding on a little bit to what you had there. So, Carrie, sorry to bring you off the nod there. Go ahead, Gio.
I was agreeing with what you were saying. What if we did took a little field trip to Hoeing Park and did like a work session? I don't know. I do better when I'm in the thick of it and can get more of a feel of what we're doing. You like field trips, John?
So one of the things I would suggest is we assume that as an idea, the site is Hoeing Park, okay? Then we do a concept plan, not very deep, but a concept plan of how many panels, location of panels, things that would have to be changed in order to make it work, so we know what it is. Then we take the plans and everything else, and we go down to the site, we look at it, and see if everybody's happy with it, not happy with it, and you know what the obstacles would be.
And I think the grant is, the funding, because a lot of it, the funding is not grant. It is loan-based and different things like that. So knowing what the payback is, and then maybe, is there a need in the community or want in the community to buy into solar, and how much do you sell electricity for, and how do you manage that whole aspect of it also? That's kind of not a clue at this point. So
I just want to put it in perspective a little bit from the legal side of things, is that my understanding is we're going to see if this is feasible to do, just as if we were a company putting together a project saying, is it feasible to build this facility? Then we have to take our hat off and say, well, we're also the government, and the government that reviews projects when they get built. Okay, so when we're saying site plan, that might be a plan for the site, but for us, on the government side, it is the public process of working it through the planning commission. So we're both owners and reviewers, if you so. And it would seem to me that there's also things that have to be figured out for the site, or any site. If we used grant money to buy the site years and years and years ago, whenever, that has to be figured out because we'd have to pay that back or replace it. Once you use a public site, if you're borrowing money to do it tax-free and then you make money off of it, we have an implication with that where that might be a taxable issue to us because you're borrowing tax-free but using it for profit purposes. So those things aren't feasible in the doing, which is what I figure this gentleman's going to tell us it's feasible to do. It's almost after you get that, you would be looking at saying, is the location and the implications worth us moving forward with this feasible part? And then I would think that the public part doesn't come until you say, all right, now we have some drawings and we run it through the process of that. But there's some hurdles yet that have to be met.
I'm there. Thank you. We knew you'd chime in with how to keep us out of trouble. We appreciate that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm sorry to belabor this, and I just want to say, that if this were an idea to expand the solar array or to add an additional solar array in order for us to build additional capacity, for future years, I think that's just good, solid planning. I don't see that this being anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Actually, I do see it being
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
one way of looking at it.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that aspect of it. Again, Jay, the Debbie Downer, and Wade, and everybody, thank you for the input on it. And I think we are heading in the right direction, and we need that input. I'm not sure what that direction is in terms of finality, but I do know that I think nothing's been said tonight that stops Khalid from finishing the study, basing it on the fact that Hoeing Park is the likely end place for it, and giving us a dumbed-down version of it, a summary of the study to really show us what obligations the town has, what our money looks like on it both now and the future, based on the best projections that you can come up with, what our obligations are. And then the town can decide whether or not it moves up and down the line in terms of our planning commission, our parks board, the public input, et cetera. So that's where I'd like to leave it tonight, if that's okay with the rest of the commissioners.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, good. All right, anything else?
Not today?
No, that was good. Thank you and as I said, it's kind of an eye-opener for us, and we appreciate it. So you have to get past the eye-opener stage.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in at once if you're not keeping up with it.
I think we will get it, and I think none of us are going to forget tonight what we've done so far.
Well, the good thing is you've done this dance before, so.
Correct.
It's a different partner you're dancing with.
And that's okay. And that's okay. You can't dance with the same partner every time. That gets boring. So it's all good. Joyce, did you have anything else back there before we move forward? Okay. Okay. Great. I'm looking forward to step number 2 or 3 or whatever we're on, whatever the next one is. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, you guys, anything else? That's it. Go forth, young man, and we'll see you at the next go round.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for all the good conversations. Jeff, thanks for your objection to kick off the rest of us to, point, counterpoint. It's all good. Joyce, for your input. Everybody else, the nods in agreement or just the nodding that took place in the audience period. Appreciate it all. Old business. Go ahead. Willard, water and sewer allocation. See if you can top that one, whoever's presenting on that. I know, Wade, you can kick us off.
Let me start you out there real quick.
Yeah.
So, Jim Clifford's here to represent the Willard project this evening. The Willard project, as you know, was a preliminary plan next door here that was approved last month at the Planning Commission. So the next step for the development team, is to come here and request water and sewer allocation. So you do have 2 requests in front of you this evening, one for the water and sewer allocation and one for a reduction in the connection fees. And just take up maybe one at a time and go through it. So Jim, if you want to take it over from there.
Thank you, Wade. Appreciate it. James Clifford from Clifford Debelius and Boynton for the Willards. I'm sorry Billy is pretty sick right now and home and in quarantine for a while, so he's not going to make it. He might be in his pajamas watching us right now, but I'm not particularly sure.
Please give him our
don't want to
regards,
think about it.
and we
Yes.
hope he feels better.
I will. Thank you very much. As you guys know, or maybe you don't know, let me just say very quickly, go through this series. We asked the county to give us a W3, S3 category change for the property. The old high store had it already, but the rest of the property needed it. So back in August a year ago, we asked them to give us a W3, S3. It went through that full process, WSSC approval, Department of Environmental Protection approval through the county council, county exec, and we were approved for that. Now, of course, this matter is a matter for the Poolesville town, not for the county, but at least the water and the sewer category has to be correct. So we went ahead and did that and went through that process. Then we requested an allocation that you have on April 28th, which was a little bit premature. We went and got it in, but our actual preliminary plan approval didn't take place till May. And once that took place, then we had a business to come forward here and ask for allocation. You all prefer to have a preliminary plan approval before allocation request is made. So as a result of that, we went ahead and submitted that, and that's what we're here for today. I guess that probably ought to be a separate matter than the second part of this. So to begin with, we would ask the the allocation could be granted. If it helps any at all, it's 63 connections we're talking about, keeping in mind that 3 of the connections are already in place for what we call Aunt Tattie's house, but the Willard house has one already. So does the old Willard Billy's old home on the site, as well as the old high store are already connected. So it's actually 60 new connections, but nonetheless, that's what we're here to do. And we have a wonderful community planned, Planning Commission, Parks Department. You guys, everyone has really done a tremendous amount to get this project right, but it doesn't mean a thing without water and sewer, so we would appreciate that tonight. Thank you.
Jim, thanks for your presentation. Before we get into the commissioner discussion on this, Wade and Jay, I'm not sure if you want to give a little more broader background on the allocation and the positioning of the allocation as it stands right now.
Some time ago, we set up an allocation scheme that required, instead of an administrative approval, where they just come in with a building permit, that allocation comes to the commissioners for you to grant. And the reason that is that obviously facilities are tight, and we need to keep track of how much we have and how they go out. And the secondary thing, after we set up the original allocation scheme, we changed it because allocations went out, but they were never used. And so that wasn't in our benefit either. So at that point in time, we collected all the allocations that were out and said, you're going to be allocated based on need, and we had categories set up based on those need. And so then the procedure came where an applicant like Mr. Clifford came in and said, I need this. Obviously, we didn't want to have a situation where we give them out again and the process doesn't happen on the backside, meaning at the Planning Commission. So as he stated, we'd like to see the Planning Commission give approval, meaning it can be built subject to all of the things being met, and we know it's going to happen, and then come here. So this is ripe for that. The question that is always asked when we do these, because we've done these in the past for other Donegan and names that should sound familiar, is what is your current allocation? What do you have available to give? Just if you were a grocer with soup on the shelf, how many do you have to sell? And Wade can answer that.
So we'll jump right in and talk about the water first. So for 62 units, we're talking about 325 gallons per day per unit, which is actually a pretty conservative number. The state uses a lot lower. But that's equals to 20,150 gallons per day, okay, that they're requesting. Yes.
And did that take into account that the homes are smaller?
We don't do that unless it's a special request, which is part 2. So let's just, let's just try to keep it easier for now.
One is allocation. The second one is the second. The town has always used a very conservative 325 gallons per day. And it'd be problematic if we were to consider less, considering that's the standard that we've been held and we've held ourselves to for a long time.
So we know that the water is the state's water. They permit us to withdraw it. They permitted it based on what we have in our master plan for our growth, 6,500 people. We are permitted to withdraw 650,000 gallons per day, okay? We typically, on the last 3 years, actually, we average about 521,000 gallons per day. So well below the threshold that we're talking about. Just recently, we also had Papadopoulos come in and take a look at and do a study, see how we run our wells, take a look at water models, take a look at potential climate change impacts in the future, and they concur that we have enough water to get to the 6,500 people. Just so you know, we're around 6,000 right now. So we're coming to the end of any more growth that's going to happen, okay? The end of it. I mean, because after that, there's so many things that have to happen. Yes, Jeff?
So that was a study done by Kathy Mim?
Correct.
Okay, I remember that. It was quite positive.
Yes, and very thorough.
Okay, and very thorough,
Absolutely,
yes.
yes. So that's on the water side of it. And our system itself, we built a lot of redundancy into it over the years, and we can actually produce about 933,000 gallons per day. We can't ever take it out because the state won't let us, but if a side of town gets contaminated by something and we have to shut down 2 wells, we have redundancy in other wells to pick up and support the rest of the system. So that's important to have that in place. And that was things that came into play back in 98, 99 to make this happen. Then we talk about the wastewater. Each year we do a wastewater capacity study and have to submit it to the state. And right now we have 138,000 1,000 gallons per day of wastewater available. So again, well below the threshold that they're requesting. So we do have adequate capacity, both water and sewer, for this project. Yes, sir.
And I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Strong, because they're doing the I&I project as we speak. And I saw them working on that on Elgin, right along by where I live on Haller Avenue.
It's been my lifetime project.
Thanks.
Wade, just before we take it one more notch from Mr. Clifford, so give us, I think it's important that if anybody else is paying attention out there, that we talk about how this wraps and ties into our previous comprehensive plan and also our comprehensive plan that we're working on, this direction that we're going.
So this, the project itself?
The project itself, and then, the idea that, our downtown development versus potentially spreading our wings further into the county and into the ag reserve, and how we developed our comprehensive plan that became downtown centric.
Right, so it's always been kind of downtown centric as far as density goes, and kind of gets wider as it gets out farther from the center. In the last master plan in 2011, we did have some clauses in there that said that we needed to develop some type of a zone to allow higher density and make the general commercial area a priority spot for it to be built in. And so that's how we came up with the overlay zone. That was one of the implementation items we had coming out of the master plan. And so that was developed, and they came in and took advantage of it. Also in the water allocation plan, the planning commission has narrowed it down that the biggest percentage of water that's available, or sewer, both of them actually, go to the downtown area, and that was in the master plan also. So both the master plan and the allocation plan point directly to the center of town and create more residential, get rid of the commercial because there's too much commercial vacant spaces, and we've talked about this many times over the years.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Commissioners, do you guys have questions right now beyond where we stand right this second? We do have, were you raising your hand there in the way back? Okay. Look, I'm just making sure I'm paying attention. So we've got a presentation here from Jim Clifford. This has obviously gone a long and winding road to get to this point. We have an approval from the Planning Commission of the preliminary plan. This is what's required in order for these guys to take the next step in terms of moving forward with their development. Wade's explained our allocations, and Jay's given us the good technical advice surrounding how it all works. We obviously have enough of what we need to fulfill what we've said that we would want to do in terms of our comprehensive plan and the previous comprehensive plan. So I'm here for questions and more. Feel free to direct them to Jim or Wade.
Can I make a motion to approve the request?
You can.
Well, I can. So I make a motion to approve the request. I read through this, so I read over your documentation, Mr. Clifford, and I made with my yellow pen, as I try to do, but everything made sense to me. And I remember very well reading the report from, I believe the woman's name was Kathy Mim, yeah, and the hydrologist, so she's an expert in that area. And if I remember right, she included this development and Westerly Grove in her calculations. So I felt quite comfortable with that, and so I make a motion that we approve the request for the fish pool water and sewer allocation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. We have a motion. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Second from Carrie. Any other questions from the commissioners? None? That was a no? Okay. All those in favor of approving the allocation as proposed, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Vote is approved. The commission has approved that allocation request 4-0. Congratulations. You're welcome.
If you all want to see the cliff notes on that report, Mr. Link did a wonderful job of
Summarizing it.
In November 3rd, or November 5th, 2001, Monocacy, Monica was the Cliff Notes version of that long report.
Okay, great. We shall review. All right, very good. Wade, jump on section 2 for us now.
Yes, there's also now a request for the connection fees to be reduced, and I'll let you just jump in and sell your own self there.
Yeah, I'm sorry that Martin Radigan's not here today, because he's heard me talk about this. I'm sorry that Martin Radigan's not here today. He's heard us talk about this before, but the challenge we have on this project is that we're trying to make it affordable. I mean, by affordable, that we're doing smaller homes, high quality, but trying to bring the price, the price point down maybe a couple $100,000 or so from the other houses that are available in the market by controlling the size of them and the fees and costs involved. A big part of that is the county, and I've asked them and requested of them basically to take the same concept Commissioner Eck was referring to, which is, please, let's take our impact fees and base them on size of houses, not on every house the same fee. So if you're a builder and you're being told you have to pay $60,000 in impact fees for school and for traffic to build a house, as a builder, you're going to build a house that's as big as you can make it to justify that $60,000. That breaks the back of a small community, of a small house community, because that $60,000 you pay before you even come out of the ground. So it's important for us before we go out and talk to builders, and we have not done that. We've been keeping our powder dry because we want this community to be built the way the community wanted it to be built. We didn't want a builder to control that dialogue. So it's our responsibility not only to push this vision, but also to make it economically feasible. And the Willards are certainly doing their part on that. Now we need to get the project tightened up as best we can so that when the builders come in and look at it and they do their pro formas, we're going to be economically feasible for them. So as I said, I've asked the county, and I've talked to Gwen Wright at Park and Planning, who is sort of the first step of trying to decide what to do with impact taxes on a yearly basis. And then I've also talked to Patricia Dunn, Pam Dunn, I'm sorry, who is at the council, who advises them on land use matters. And she also understands this, and I've talked to a number of the commissioners. Everybody gets this. You have to make it less expensive for smaller houses if you really want to have a missing middle or affordable housing concept. So they're going through their processes. I am bugging them on a regular basis, and it's critical for them to bring their fees down. We've got to get them down to half or so, much like our house sizes have come down to that level. So we're asking you all, not because we want to, but because we have to, if you guys would also take that same approach and tie your connection fees to the size of the houses. And remember now, we're talking about 2 to 3 bedroom houses here. Then that will help us significantly try to keep these costs down. Because everything ends up, no matter what you think, everything ends up being passed along to the buyer. So if we don't control the cost at our end, they end up in the price of the house. So that's why we've asked for this today.
So just to give some context before, I know you're going to have a question, Jeff. Before we get to the context of this, Jim, I know that we kind of divided this into a part 1 and a part 2.
Yes.
And appreciate what we've done on part 1. Regarding part 2, you're talking about a swing of what our current, I know that everybody here knows that the county's impact fees or connection fees are the vast majority of what we're
Yes.
talking about. They're $50,000 to $60,000. Ours is ranges from $9,000 for the 9,700 for our townhouses, and up to 15,000.
Almost 15 for the single families, yes.
Okay, so we have these connection fees that have already been established for the residents that we've built at this point. So what Jim's asking for is, I'm gonna paraphrase, he's asking for us to consider where those numbers are gonna land for us. Maybe where we land will help him make his case for where he lands with the county, vice versa. But what I'm gonna ask the commissioners to do and ask Wade to do is to work with Jim to develop what would be, in essence, a new, what we call a rational nexus for the determination of these fees. You can ask any questions you want. You can talk to Jim about how the size of the houses are going to go. I don't think you really know exactly what size house because you haven't even picked a developer yet, right?
Well, we do know that based on the lot sizes that we've created, And based on the designs that we are going to be demanding, this architectural designs, that the houses will be between 1,200 and 2,000 square feet. We know there'll be a lot of pressure to push towards the 2,000. We hope to be able to push back. The target audience for this subdivision is really first-time home buyers and move-down home buyers. And we think by doing that, we're going to capture, most of the subdivision will be captured by Poolesville residents, the people who are already in need of those, exactly those kind of homes right here in Poolesville. So, yes, I mean, we feel like these are smaller than townhouses being built in most places, but yet they're being hit with the same cost and fees as if it were a large single family. There's really, nobody's done the small house out here, and so nobody's taken into account that small houses should be treated much like townhouses or even smaller with lesser fees.
Yeah, I don't, and Jim, I can appreciate that, and I don't want to tip our hand because we really don't have a hand to tip just yet.
Right.
But I do think that eventually we've got to come up with a real solid basis for what essentially will be a new category for Poolesville. But what I don't want it to be is that we are the one that necessarily helps you. We're the little part of this. I mean, we know the county's the bigger part of it. And I'd like to know, do we have a reason why we'd have to determine this right now besides I know that they're already putting together a marketing plan and figure out where their future is going to be and what size house they're going to be, maybe predicated on how big the impact fees are or the connection fees are, rather. But do we have to have this right this second? We don't need it from them right this second, do we?
No, I think that he's come forward with, I appreciate coming forward with this at this time, but I think there's some, I couldn't give a recommendation on this just because I don't know exactly how many 2,000 square foot homes, how many 1,800, but when the recommendation came forward before for the townhome community, I knew there was going to be 17 townhomes. They were all 1,600 square feet. I could compare actual data from the next door townhomes.
Right.
Come up with, the exact numbers. I mean, so, and I'm not able to do that right now, or I've not been presented that right now.
I have a suggestion. I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to be clear. So on this page here, it says that the current impact fee is $11,714, and then the proposed is $7,762. So it's written in numbers here.
That was back in 2012, maybe, or?
Oh, it was 202014, yes.
Okay,
That was a
1.7%
Oh.
annual escalator.
Okay, so that's not what,
It's about 13.5 now.
oh, so that's not current then?
Well, that's a Jameson project. That
Oh.
was where you guys had done this for that project, the townhouse project back then. And
Oh, okay.
we just used that
All right.
as an example of what could happen.
Oh, okay, so this is not the real request then?
I could make a suggestion here that might be of some help. If you guys will shadow what the county is going to be doing, and then take the same prorations or the same calculations that they take. So let's say, for instance, they come back with a formula for smaller houses. That might give you a path forward to do the same thing with your fees, and then it's all consistent and nobody's doing more than their share. And I'm more than willing to have the Willards, suggest to the Willards they live with that, because then at least it's fair, across the board for the governmental entities.
Jim, that's a great suggestion, and I don't want to we could never formally obligate ourselves to that tonight. I think the town, unless I'm mistaken, our connection fees are derived through our local contribution, the things that we're going to be doing. I mean, I like it from a percentage basis and a talking point basis, but the town of Poolesville is going to have its own, discussion points and points of expense that I think that, we have always taken aside as a separate issue. But I don't see any reason why that if in the discussions that we end up doing something that echoes those general percentages, I think that's fair to say that that's likely where we'll be.
Okay.
And I think that that's, I'm interested to see how the numbers turn out myself because, this is something we haven't done. So
Yeah.
we've done it several times, but we've never done it based on this.
There's a paranoia. Everyone wants these homes, and every politician out there running for office right now has got on their platform that they want these homes. But there's a paranoia about ever reducing taxes, and so nothing ever happens quickly there. I've been working on it for 2 years on the county level, and it's slowly happening, but it's not happening quickly. It's not happening right away.
I'm 100% committed to, and I think the commissioners are all 100% committed towards fair.
Yeah.
And we're going to help determine what's fair, and then that's something that I feel like then in the end, it's going to be a win-win for everybody, the consumer, the ability to price the homes properly, and to have, not have the taxpayers pick up an undue burden by the new homes that are being built. So I think that all makes sense.
Just so I understand, you're suggesting that regardless of what the county does, that this is an evaluation that you guys should be doing for smaller?
Well, I would say if we didn't have the ability to do it, but we do have the ability to do it. And
Okay.
I couldn't say unless, and my fellow commissioners, you're feel free to pitch in, that there's probably no reason why it won't turn out to be very similar,
All right.
in my mind.
Thank you.
Unless you guys think that, we've done this already before, so I don't see a reason why it's not going to be something similar.
So, I completely disagree. I think what's fair is what's already on the books. I got this letter and I sent a list of questions to Wade, which you all saw. And I appreciated that Wade was able to respond to most of them. I was also under the impression that he was recommending that we go with this, and then he corrected me and said that he was not. So I was happy to hear that because, I think that letters like this are probably the kinds of things that you just kind of have to do in this business. And I understand that you're in the business of making money, and you have to look at your own bottom line and try to cut costs how you can. But you just kind of lost me with this letter. It's very expensive. We're doing upgrades. It just reads a little disingenuous to me. This is your business, and you should be able to make the money that you see that you're going to be. But I think the fee structure is fair the way they are. We need to be conservative all the time when we're thinking. We talk about I&I here ad nauseum. We need to be as conservative as we can in thinking about that, because that is going to be going on forever. And Wade ran the numbers for me. We're looking at today, almost a $300,000 difference. So, I've heard my colleagues talk many times about being very conservative and not losing revenue. I've heard Jeff talk about this specifically. So, I would hope that, the gist of my questions to Wade were, why would we want to lose revenue? That's still kind of my question.
I don't see us losing revenue. So that's not the point of determining the rational nexus. The rational nexus is that. It's determining what the actual costs are, and then also creating a fair fee structure for connections. So I don't see us, it doesn't necessarily have to be a profit center, and it definitely can't be a loss. So it has to be what's fair.
Also, I'm not a realtor or mortgage broker, but what I understand is that home sales are driven by the market, not by whatever fee structure we come up with. So I don't really understand that argument either.
Would you like me to try to address those, or?
Yeah, go for it.
Should we keep it? Okay. One of the early decisions that had to be made on this project, Commissioner Cook, was whether these will be townhouses or single families. And the community was canvassed by Protect Our Poolesville, and a resounding answer was, we don't want any more townhouses. We want single families, which was fine. Another part of that survey came back and saying, look, we want houses that are of scale, in scale with the town and in this particular area. So we'd like to see smaller houses, and we'd like them to meet the community's need for first-time home buyers and for move-down home buyers. So again, we absorbed that and took that into place when we were creating this project. The net effect of all that is that we're talking about smaller lots, which means that the sellers are really getting less for this project than they would have if they just let the market take place. We're basically artificially creating a project that the market has to absorb on our terms. So there's cost to that. Plus, on top of that, a lot of work was done on this community to have it interconnect with the rest of the town. A lot of what I would consider to be community elements that the Parks Department helped us design and put together along with the folks at the Historic Society. So the project really has done a lot of things that don't make sense on the normal residential level of building, and Tom Kettler will probably tell you that. So basically, by taking these things on, these different issues on, and costing both the seller in what they were going to do, but also in lowering the market price on things, you have to. It's a water balloon. When you squeeze in one place, it blows up in another. And in this particular case, we just have to find a way. My son has got a degree in land use, and he's done pro formas. And he said, "Dad, you've got to do these cuts. You've got to find ways to bring your costs down to make this project make sense." And so we went and looked at all the possibilities. This is just the tip of the iceberg, as you can imagine. But if the community wants a project, and I believe they do, that does the things that we're trying to do, it's more expensive than a normal project. These lot costs per development, the development costs per lot are significantly more than they would have been otherwise. But it's such a better project, such a better product. So everybody has to understand that it's expensive, and all we're trying to do is not make more money. We're trying to get it, make it economically feasible to do it. And we believe we can.
Can I add my 2 cents? So when I read this, I was very happy to read it. And I remember quite well that and I'm not on the planning commission, but I remember quite well the requests for walkability, sight lines, parks, some kind of a setback, I forget what the right word is, homes, one-level homes for new families, one-level homes for senior people like me. And when I remember what the presentation, it met all of those checkboxes and more. And I do kind of feel that if we want to get what I believe will be a very nice community in the middle of town, then we should be able to be willing to give a little bit for that as well. So I didn't, when I read the papers, like I said before, and I went over my my yellow pen, I thought that these were the numbers, but now I see it, that's an older letter. So I guess Wade's going to have to figure out the numbers, right, Wade? And so I do appreciate this, and I do think it's understandable that a connection fee in my head, because it used to be called, what it used to be called? Impact fee, thanks. So a connection fee, in my mind, is when you want the clean water on one direction and you want the wastewater on the other direction, and if you have a smaller house, presumably you have fewer residents, and so the usage is going to be less. So I think it's certainly a valid request to have a smaller impact fee because the use of the water is going to be less and all that kind of thing. So anyway, that's my reasoning. I'm not an engineer like you guys are, so that's what I thought. Now, I do have a question, if you don't mind, sir. On the page here, of course, this is some years back already, but on the very bottom, it said, we can't read it here, but it's in yellow, about senior funding and economic consultant funding and a mechanism on restricted funds to track senior program. Is that still in play, or is that just?
Again, this was a Jameson project, so it's not relevant. It just happens to be the letter they used. But,
okay.
Perhaps Wade could give you more insight on that, but it's not really relevant to what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, thanks. So I said my 2 cents, but thank you very much, sir.
Other end of the table.
All right, so after sitting down listening to everything, I'll reserve any judgment until I can see some more of those facts. I am interested to see what the county comes up with. I am interested in looking at how the numbers would be determined, listening to Wade's feedback, listening to the Planning Commission's feedback. And so I can't take one position or the other until I have all the information to make a recommendation or develop a thought on it. So that's where I stand.
Understandable. Yeah, this is all a square footage issue. The fact that you label it a single family or you label it a townhouse shouldn't dictate what the fee is. It should be the square footage of the house. Otherwise, it's fairly unfair So that's all we're asking. That's the basis of what we did with the county. Look at the square footage, don't look at the type of unit. It's just because we're not going to get small units if we don't. Thank you.
Anything else from the commissioners on that?
So what's the next step?
The next step is that Wade and Jay are going to come together at the appropriate time, whatever that is, to work on this connection fee and come up with a model. And that will happen in time. There's other things that have to take place. In the end, the developer, builder, whoever they choose, there's going to be upfront money involved. There's going to be a percentage of it that has to be paid upfront, or however that works out. I'll let our guys run with that. But in the end, it's the parties have to come together to determine what this fee is, and we get to vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing it and thinking it through, and this is a math equation, at least in my mind. I would think that we have had in the past an exception. That's what you're asking for, an exception. And maybe that day is past. Maybe we're going to redo how we do this, because then there won't be need for exceptions anymore. It'll be built into the fact. And there's a lot of moving parts, as you said, but I think it's easy. It's not really going to be that hard to figure it out. It's sort of math, so give us some time.
Anything else, Carrie?
So I guess I'm asking my fellow commissioners, what is the benefit to the town by granting this exception?
Jay, you go ahead. I don't think that's what we're doing.
Well, I think
If we were to.
I mean, I think if you change the paradigm, and again, this is just off the top of my head, but we'll call one a little house and a regular house a big house. If you can have two little houses for the same usage cost, forget money now, they use two little houses equal the same usage as one big house, then the fees should be commensurate with that. And the fees are derived by taking the total cost of what it takes to create the capacity divided by the number of units that you're doing. So those number of units wouldn't be absolute numbers, right? As in 20 big houses, they might be 10 small houses, or whatever the number, 10 small houses, whatever it is, to add up to the total number. So I guess it's similar to buying the big case of water versus the small case of water. If the total price is the same, it should be proportional to the number of bottles in it. Does that make sense? So that's, we
No,
can't
you're
really.
not answering my question.
Well, I guess
What would be the benefit to the town?
it would be a huge benefit, because the numbers for the money, see, we're focused on money, and I don't think that's I don't think that's how you solve this, is you don't solve it on the money side, you solve it on the use side. So if I said, wow, they can put in 60 small houses, that would be equivalent to 120 regular houses, I can make our limited capacity go further because I would use less.
But you're going on the assumption that if we say no, they're not going to build at all.
And I'm not even worried about their project at all. I'm trying to say, again, if we say that every house uses 325 equivalent dwelling units, that's gallons per equivalent dwelling units, but some houses use less and some big ones use more, maybe it would be better for us to actually get the number that it would use, so that instead of 325 being equal to 1 unit, you would have a different calculation. So you're changing the metrics of the unit, not the money. The money would flow naturally from that. Does that explain it better?
I think also just looking at more of what I'm hearing you say, Jay, is looking at a formula. What is the formula? What are the variables? So it's almost like an equation. You have the different variables, and then once you put those together, now you have a formula, regardless of who the builder is, who the developer is. What's a formula that's fair both to the town and to the builder, and then you look at what's the need. And I applaud you for looking at affordable homes. I know I've talked to a number of seniors in the community who are holding on to what they have in hopes of being able to stay in Poolesville. I've talked to people who have children in Poolesville, who have grandkids in Poolesville, and they're watching anxiously to see what comes out, because they would like to move, but they don't need the space. So I think going back to what we're trying to discuss here, and Carrie, answer your question, what's the benefit to the town, I think that we have to, first you look at a formula that's fair, and then you look at, in order to have any more economic development, you are going to need a few more people. I often think about the old yogurt shop and how many people were needed in order for that yogurt shop not to go out of business. And I think if they would have had about 10 more people a day, they wouldn't have gone out of business. And I think about just what's fair on both ends. So I'm anxious. I'm not anxious. I'm waiting to see what formulas you come up with the math.
I mean, I guess I may take one more run at it. Mr. Clifford's going at it from what his unit cost is, 8,000, 12,000. We don't start at that. We start at what does it cost to create the capacity. So if it costs $1 million to create the capacity for all the town, and then we have 1,000 units that can pay that, you divide 1,000 into 1 million, and that's what the cost is. But if you didn't do it by 1,000 units, treating all sizes are the same, and you did it by, no, there's not 1,000 units, there's going to be 3,000 units. Some of them are going to be small, some of them are going to be large, some of them are going to be medium. They're all going to pay a proportional cost that would still all add up to the $1 million. And the benefit is you might be able to have other housing types and more housing types, which would create a higher population, which would use what limited resources you have left. That's as best I can do off the top of my head. I think we could figure it out pretty straightforward from that, because we know what that unit cost is.
Well, we can determine it, and I'm 100% satisfied we'll be able to do that, and we've done it in the past. So appreciate all the conversation on it from all the commissioners. Jim, from your presentation, if there's anything else from the commissioners on this? No. So we have a part one and part two. Part one you've walked away with tonight,
Thank you
and
very much.
part two you've walked away with further consideration.
Okay, and we're available for any conversations or anything that we can do to help with this formula. And I would try to get more information, and maybe it'd be a good idea for Pam Dunn to talk to you guys from the county, so you know what they're thinking and can get some thoughts on what they think they're going to do.
Town staff will be in charge of putting those numbers together.
Okay.
So good stuff.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. Good stuff. Important. So we've done number one and number two on old business. Now we got resolution 02-22. And now we go to Jay for that one.
Debbie Downer here telling you the steps you
I
have
didn't-
to
I
do
didn't
to
mean
do
it
what
to
you
call it
want to
start
do.
off with that.
Exactly.
Jay Downer. Go ahead, Jay.
That's why I don't come to the meetings very often, right? Okay, there you go. Okay, so you know that the commissioners are interested in surplusing the, what I call the thrift store property. And we've talked about that for several months because there was things we had to do to make sure we did our due diligence. So in the charter, you are allowed to surplus property, public property that you no longer need, no longer desire, no longer want. And the requirement that you do is you have to take a vote to do that, saying it's surplus, you're declaring it surplus, and then you have to give 20 days notice. So that means if you voted to do that tonight, you couldn't surplus the property, you couldn't give it away for 20 days. So that's in your charter. So we're talking about, and Wade can go into the details of a process to surplus the thrift shop, close bids and things like that. That doesn't mean you have to wait 20 days to do that. That just means you can't do that without saying it's surplus. So this resolution memorializes the fact that you are stating that the town no longer has a public need for the thrift shop property. End of story. Good?
Where's the Downer part?
Well, nobody likes to follow rules, right? So
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Hey, now I
like the referee with the rules.
I
okay?
I resent that remark. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's way, Jay, we understand why you're giving out one of your continued warnings and admonishments, and very light-handed, so we appreciate that. No, I can appreciate it. Yes, it's something we've been talking probably too much about for too long. And thank you for putting the resolution in place for us for 02-22 surplus town property. We've already had a public hearing on this, right?
You don't even need to at this point because
Right.
you're going to have some more public. So my recommendation is, unless you've changed your mind, you adopt this tonight and we move on.
Great. Go ahead. Jeff, go
Well, I
ahead.
make a motion to adopt Resolution 002-22, surplus town property.
Great. We have a motion to do just that. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Tie for second, but it looks like Carrie sat down and seconded it very quickly. Okay, that's good. Any other comment on this? None? All those in favor of approving Resolution 002-22 surplusing of town property, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? That's been approved 4-0 with Martin absent again. Thank you for that, everybody. Thanks for all the conversation. Jay, thanks for bringing us up to date and keeping this ball moving forward for us. Town managers report.
Okay, we have 4 different employees that have been tested positive for COVID over the last 2 weeks. None of them have serious cases, and none were originated at work or spread it at work. We follow the county's protocol, so we've all been safe as far as that goes. And they're all doing better now, so. I met with Gabriel Herman. I think you guys knew who he is. He was a skate park enthusiast. He came forward looking at doing an expansion, talked to you guys with the Parks Board. So he kind of dropped off, and he's picking it back up. He's looking at some different grants and different things. So I'll be working with him and kind of picking up where he left off.
Is this the student?
Yes.
I think there's one more student also. I'll get that name to you. It's no idea.
Okay, because I told him we need to rally some kids up and talk about the design and not just one, because he has a nice design he had laid out there. Whether it's feasible for that park and will fit in, we don't know. So I actually reached out to Andy Duck of Artisan, who built this skate park here, and come in and take a look at the design, maybe do start over like we did originally, start with the Parks Board, take it to the public, and then get some feedback, and then see what the cost would be and what grants are out there, so.
If you go back, Noah Taborga, he and another student, they had presented to the Parks Board some time ago,
Okay.
and I don't think you were with us at that point. But if you look, you remember the 2 young men?
They were for painting them.
Were they for painting?
They're
I wondered, I know they're talking about like the resurfacing, but I think just in terms of having more student participation, maybe if you're able to connect them together, that would be a good opportunity for all the kids
Okay.
who are interested in
Good
this.
point, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, close out into the fiscal year, Bobby and I have started going through that process. We're balancing out all the accounts. We're gonna meet with our accountant in 2 weeks, and then the auditors will be out here early August for their first visit, so it's always a fun time for us. Assistant manager position, we've received 14 applications so far, and really some fairly decent ones, local people with good experience. I mean, local being Rockville, and there's some within town itself, so pretty good looking applicants.
Timeline cutoff on that, and is there, are they being forwarded to the committee?
Not yet. I'm gonna put them all together and I've already reached out to the committee and find out who's available and stuff, and I'm gonna start, last time they had me redact the names, and so we might just go through that whole process again, get them out to the committees by the end of the month,
Great,
which
that's
is
what I
just a
was
couple
looking
weeks
for.
now, so we're gonna be on it and going through the motions.
And not to fall back on a previous, but the surplusing, I have to take Martin's hat, put it on. So the surplus property, now that we've approved the resolution, what's our next follow-up on that?
Let me finish my report.
Martin usually
Mr.
jumps in,
President.
Martin usually jumps in the middle of yours too.
All right,
Yeah.
so,
I take
Old
his hat
Methodist
off.
Church, yes. So, we're doing,
I was 10 seconds early.
So we're going to be doing our online advertising. We have our ad going out in Randy's paper on Friday. The closing date is July 29th, and I expect to have it in front of you guys August 1st meeting for an award. So that's the timeline. Put it on it. You guys wanted it done, it's going to be done.
Thank you.
Streetscape is my last one. So Jim met with Arrow he saw Arrow at the booth in Ocean City, and had one of the engineers call me and set a meeting up to come in and take a look at where we are with the plan, because they heard we got the award granted. And I wanted to talk to him about the area up there by locals. That, we did some stuff with the plan, but really that whole area's kind of changed with pedestrian traffic flow and vehicle traffic flow, and talk about crosswalks going in and different things like that. So I'm gonna get a price from him on taking a look at the design of it, and maybe, is there something we need to do there now? And he went up and visited the site, so he's gonna be getting back to me on that. And that should be a component moving forward. We should definitely address this, as part of this whole streetscape project, I think. So it's a good meeting. Let's see where we go from there, so.
It's definitely been crossing over from like where Caliva is and then cross over to Locals. Yeah, folks just, they don't go up to the crosswalk and then come over, and it's just literally unsafe. I mean, on the weekend, you can see,
Yeah.
you know, people kind of skipping across the road there and whatnot, and it's something bad's going to happen, and
And from an engineering perspective, crossing there, there's no good way to do it.
I know,
know.
Mr. Strong has looked
At
into
what
it.
point we had talked about putting some signage?
Well, that's part of the discussion right now.
Oh, okay.
For sure,
Okay.
for sure.
Signage, striping, there will be changes.
Throw a whole bunch of stuff at it. Yeah, I agree. It's not good.
Is that it for you? Pedestrian bridge over top?
Or like a big
A ferry? Oh, God. Too funny. Too funny, right. Okay, you guys, does anybody have any other questions for Wade? What do I have to do next? Come on, let's go. Give us a motion.
What did you think of my text about the trash can? Did you get that? We can talk about it offline.
Motion to adjourn? Let's have it. Anybody?
Sure, I motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second by Carrie. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, guys.